Good morning, boys and girls. My name is Miss Brittany, and I am your host. This is your teacher, Miss Valerie. Today, we will learn more about the Aztec.
Today's lesson is titled, The Aztec, Cortez's Letter. By the end of today's lesson, we will be able to review the area in which the Aztec lived and the vast empire they established in central Mexico many, many years ago. We'll also be able to identify details about the Aztec capital city, Tenochtitlan. And then we're going to determine or clarify the meaning of unknown and multiple meaning words and phrases.
Dear Mom, you will not believe what I'm doing today. I am going to be on TV. I always knew that one day I would be famous. Love, your superstar daughter, Brittany.
Hi, Miss Brittany. You look excited. What are you doing?
I am so excited to be here today, Miss Valerie. I am writing a letter to my mom to tell her all about my TV debut and my launch to superstardom.
Writing a letter is a great way to inform your mom about being on TV. But I'm not so sure about the superstardom part.
Miss Valerie, one day you will see my name in lights. Just you wait.
Well, let's see what you've got. Are you ready for today's lesson? All right, Miss Brittany, think about all the many reasons to write a note or letter. Can you tell me a few reasons?
Sure, I love writing letters. You can write them to offer encouragement, to tell someone about your day, or to inform someone about upcoming events.
That's right. And boys and girls, did you know that letters have been playing a crucial part in history for thousands of years?
I did. In fact, for many years, or at least since pens and paper became common, people who wanted to get in touch with other people separated by distance had only one way to do it. They wrote letters, the only means of long-distance communication, at least until the invention of the telegraph in the 19th century.
Today, we're going to read part of an actual letter from a man named Hernan Cortez. Cortez was the leader of the Spaniards who sailed to Mexico, and his letter was written to the King of Spain. In the letter, Cortez describes Emperor Moctezuma and the capital city of Tenochtitlan.
That's right. If you've been with us for previous episodes about the Aztec, you may recall that the Aztecs settled on the islands of Lake Texcoco.
We also learned that the Aztec invented a special way to farm by creating floating gardens called chinampas. We learned that the gardens didn't actually float, but were held stationary because of the roots that formed over time. And finally, we learned that the Aztec people were ruled by a leader called an emperor, and one of the emperor's names was Moctezuma.
Wow, I can't wait to read this letter.
Before we do that, let's take a look at a map. If you have been with us for earlier episodes, we learned that the Aztec civilization was located in a swampy region of what is now Mexico. Here is where they were located in central Mexico and around Mexico City. We also learned that the ruler of the Aztec was Moctezuma and that his palace was located in the city called Tenochtitlan. Many Spanish soldiers and explorers traveled to the Americas after Christopher Columbus made his trip in 1492. One of those explorers was this man, Hernan Cortez, who led the Spaniards to Mexico. Let's look at where Spain is located on a map. Cortez traveled across the ocean from Spain, which is shown in orange, to Mexico, which is shown in green on the map.
Miss Valerie, that seems like a long distance to travel back in those days.
Yes, it was a very long and difficult journey across the ocean. But because of explorers like Hernán Cortez, who wrote of their travels, we have first-hand tales of their adventures with the early American civilizations. Before we start reading, let's discuss a word that we will see. In our story, we will hear that the city of Tenochtitlan was an enormous city. Say that word after me. Enormous.
Enormous.
Enormous means very large. The boy's hat was so enormous that it covered both of his eyes. Miss Brittany, can you think of an animal that you might consider enormous?
I sure can. I saw an elephant at the zoo recently. It was an enormous animal, so much bigger than all the others.
That's a great example. Boys and girls, can you think of another animal that is enormous? Excellent. After our story, we'll talk even more about the word enormous. Additionally, today, we will use this anchor chart behind us to demonstrate our learning. Notice the title, Homophones, at the top. You may be familiar with that word. Miss Brittany, do you know what a homophone is?
Yes, I think there are words that sound alike but have different meanings and sometimes different spellings.
That's right. Can you give an example of a homophone?
Yes, flower like the plant, and then flour like what you use to cook with. They sound the same but have different meanings and spellings.
That's right. Excellent example. Boys and girls, there are many homophones in books, stories, and even letters. As we read today, listen for words that are homophones. Also, remember that what we are reading is a letter from Cortez in Mexico to the King of Spain. Here is the letter from Cortez. Your Majesty, in order to fully describe the city of Tenochtitlan and the Emperor Moctezuma, it would require more writers than just myself and would take a very long time. I will not be able to fully explain everything, but I will do my best to describe the amazing things we have seen. The Aztec state is in the shape of a circle. It is completely surrounded by tall mountains. There are 2 lakes that take up almost the entire valley in which the city is located. One of the lakes is freshwater and the other is a saltwater lake. The great city of Tenochtitlan is made up of 2 islands that sit in the middle of the salt lake, Lake Texcoco. There are 4 entrances to this enormous city. In order to cross over the lake into the city, large bridges were constructed. The bridges are so wide that as many as 10 horses walking side by side could cross them.
This picture shows just how enormous or very large Tenochtitlan was.
The main streets are very wide and straight. Some of the smaller streets are made of land and some are made of water, similar to streams or canals. The people of the city use canoes to travel in the streets made of water. There are several main squares, all of which contain markets.
Hold on, squares? Isn't a square like a shape that has 4 equal sides?
Yes, that is right. But the word square in the story here is considered a homophone. In Cortez's letter, he's talking about a different meaning of the word square. Here, squares are open areas in a village or city. Let's keep reading. One of the squares is very large, and on any given day, there are thousands of people in it buying and selling things. Because there are so many different kinds of products, it would be impossible to name every single thing. But some of the items include food, precious stones, shells, feathers, medicines, wood, coal, sleeping mats, clothing, pottery, and so much more. Along with all the items that are for sale, there are also restaurants and barber shops. A building, like a courthouse, also sits in the market. People in this building are like judges, resolving arguments and ordering punishment for criminals. Also, in Tenochtitlan, there are many beautiful temples. The priests, or religious leaders, live in a part of each temple and dress in black. These priests wear the exact same clothing for their whole lives, and they never cut or comb their hair. Since the lake surrounding the city is a saltwater lake, there are aqueducts that carry the water from the freshwater lake into the city.
Aqueducts?
Yes, Miss Brittany. Aqueducts are special structures like pipes or bridges that carry water from one place to another. Back to Cortez's letter. The aqueducts carry the water over the bridge. Once over the bridge, the water is distributed throughout the city to be used for drinking and for other purposes. The water from the aqueducts makes up the whole city's water supply. It is quite amazing to see.
Miss Valerie, do you think Cortez is impressed by the Aztec city?
I do believe Cortez is impressed by the Aztec city.
Well, how can you tell?
Well, in Cortez's letter, he says that it was quite amazing to see. Quite amazing is another way of saying that he was impressed.
That's right. Let's get back to Cortez's letter.
Order has been established and is well kept in the city. The people of the city are very friendly and courteous to one another and behave much in the same way as Spaniards. I found this most surprising because of how different they and their city look from ours.
Miss Valerie, I heard the word order, and I'm pretty sure that word is a homophone.
You're right. Can you explain to the boys and girls listening?
Yes. Order, as it was used in the story, means that rules have been created and are being followed by the people who live there. Like the opposite of chaos. But order can also mean to arrange something in a particular way.
That's right.
Like to put words in alphabetical order.
That is correct. And great job listening for homophones. Let's hear what else Cortez wrote in his letter. In regard to Emperor Moctezuma, his empire is quite unbelievable. I have been unable to find out how large of an area he rules. I believe he rules a land at least as large as Spain.
This means that Cortez thinks that Moctezuma's empire is very big. It was as big as the state of Utah. He's showing over and over in his letter how impressed he was of the city. Let's hear what else Cortez wrote about Moctezuma.
Good idea. However, I have seen with my own eyes his great wealth. He possesses many, many objects made from gold, silver, and other precious metals, all made by wonderful craftsmen. Within the city, there are quite a few palaces, so wondrous that I could not possibly describe them adequately. One of the smaller palaces is attached to a beautiful garden with a balcony that runs over top of it. 2 high-ranking princes live inside this palace. Also, inside the palace are 10 pools of water. Some of the pools are of salt water and some are of fresh water. In each of the pools live different kinds of birds. The birds that need salt water live in the saltwater pools, and the birds that need fresh water live in the freshwater pools. Each type of bird is given the type of food that it likes best, whether it is worms, maize, seeds, or fish. The royalty here are able to just look out a window and be amused by the birds in the various pools.
In this sentence, royalty means the people who live inside the palaces, like kings, queens, princes, and princesses.
I have tried to write these descriptions as truthfully as I can, so that your Majesty may have an accurate picture of this part of the world. Your humble servant, Hernan Cortez.
What a great letter. Cortez seems so impressed with the city of Tenochtitlan, and he spoke very highly of the Aztec.
That's right. He especially spoke about how enormous the city was. Do you recall from the beginning what that word enormous means?
Enormous means very large.
Perfect. Now, let's see if we can remember how Cortez described the markets in Tenochtitlan. Miss Brittany, can you remember?
Cortez said that Tenochtitlan was an enormous city with lots of people. Many different kinds of things were sold there in the markets, such as food, precious stones, shells, feathers, medicines, wood, coal, sleeping mats, clothing, pottery, and more.
Excellent. And since the whole valley was near 2 big lakes, do you recall how Cortez said the aqueducts supplied the people in Tenochtitlan with water?
I remember the aqueducts were like pipes or bridges that carry water from the freshwater lake to the city. Now, I have a question for you, boys and girls. Think about whether you would want to visit a city like Tenochtitlan. Give me a thumbs up if you would want to visit this type of city, or a thumbs down if you would not.
That is fantastic. I think it would be interesting to visit a city like Tenochtitlan. Now, let's summarize the letter that Cortez wrote in a few sentences. Miss Brittany, can you help me?
Yes, as long as the boys and girls listening at home help too.
Boys and girls, can you summarize the letter from Cortez?
Cortez, the leader of the Spaniards who sailed to Mexico, wrote a letter to the King of Spain. In the letter, Cortez describes Emperor Moctezuma and the capital city of Tenochtitlan.
Great job. Miss Brittany, as we were reading, you mentioned several homophones like square and order that were in that story. Can you remind me and the boys and girls about homophones?
Yes. Boys and girls, homophones are words that sound alike but have different meanings or spellings. I think it may be helpful to explore a few words that are homophones.
What a great idea. Let's use our anchor chart and decide which words match the picture and then add them to the chart. The first picture is of the number 2. Which one of these spellings of the homophone matches the picture? We have the spelling T-O and the spelling T-W-O.
I believe the number 2 is spelled T-W-O.
Very good. Miss Brittany, will you add the word to, spelled T-W-O, under the first picture? Now, let's take a look at the next picture. Which one of the words is the correct spelling for the insect bee? We have two choices, the spelling B-E-E or the spelling B-E.
I know that be is a verb that means exist. So the insect bee must be spelled B-E-E.
That's right. We'll add that one underneath our picture of the insect bee. Next, we have the picture of the sea or the ocean. What do you think, boys and girls, is the correct spelling for this word S-E-E or S-E-A?
I believe it is S-E-A because S-E-E means to see with your eyes.
You're right again, Miss Brittany, and boys and girls at home. So we'll add it below the picture. And lastly, we have a picture of a sun. Which homophone is the correct spelling to match the picture? Boys and girls, do you know? We have choices S-O-N or S-U-N.
Did you say S-U-N? If you did, you got it. We'll add it to our chart under the picture of the sun.
Thank you for helping us complete our chart. Remember, homophones are words that sound alike but have different meanings and sometimes different spellings.
Thank you for joining us today. All rights and credits from this lesson belong to Core Knowledge Language Arts. We would like to thank them for publicly sharing these materials. The views and opinions expressed in this lesson are those of Core Knowledge authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Mississippi Department of Education.
If you're interested in reading more about the Aztec, check out these books at your local library or online. The Aztec, True Books, American Indians by Andrew Santella. The Aztec Empire, True Books, Ancient Civilizations by Sunita Apt. And The Aztec Empire, Excavating the Past by Nicholas Saunders and Tony Allen.
Together with your family, you may want to peruse the internet for short, age-appropriate videos related to the Aztec. Discuss how watching a video is the same and different from listening to a storybook or a read aloud.
Use what you have learned today. Go tell someone at home about the letter that Cortez the explorer wrote to the King of Spain. And remember to use the word enormous in a sentence.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you again soon.